Once again, good evening, everyone. We are going to start this evening with the Sewer Commissioners meeting. As I see Steve's here and probably would like to go home at a decent hour. So first part, it would be
good on TV, so.
There you go. Okay. So we can go slow, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hot out and cool in, right?
Yeah.
So,
So first would be to have someone, we need to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the sewer commissioners agenda as written.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we move on. Approval of the minutes of the June 24th Sewer Commissioners meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any changes or corrections? None heard. All in favor of approving of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, you're up.
Chairman.
Oh, because you weren't here.
Okay. Major point of discussion tonight is the purchase or replacement of a truck for the sewer department. Would you like to take care of that, Captain?
Sure, Mr. Chair. So there's a little one-page memo in the packet, kind of outlining what the town management proposes to do. Basically, the oldest truck is a 2012 truck in the highway department with a gasoline engine, but we are hoping to trade it in or sell it outright. For losing that truck, the highway department would then take from wastewater a 2015 truck with a diesel engine. There will be some repairs that need to be made for the turbo and emissions functions before that happens. And then after that, the highway would pay back the wastewater capital fund, the value of the truck that they're accepting from wastewater. This way, the wastewater users are not paying for the highway department to get a new truck that the whole town will benefit from. And then we propose using the wastewater capital fund to purchase a replacement truck for the wastewater department with a gasoline engine rather than diesel and sized smaller than the current truck. I did do a little green fleet screening and found that the wastewater truck tow loads for the flusher, jetter, and other equipment exceed what would be rated for an electric option for this. You see on the little chart there, there's three different trucks that have been scouted out by staff in the wastewater department. They've kind of deemed those as fitting the needs in terms of the kind of body that they need and the size engine that they need and towing and so forth, and the pricing is there. So the request is that the select board authorize an amount not to exceed $75,000 from the wastewater capital fund to procure a wastewater truck to replace the existing one, and then undertake the plan above to swap the other truck to highway and reimburse wastewater for that truck.
Questions from the board?
I have a question. I want to put you on the spot, Stephen, and say, what is your recommendation? Because these costs are all, I mean, there's a difference of almost $4,000, but there's some slight differences, and with when it's $75,000 and we're within three, it makes sense to make sure.
My recommendation is to get the Ford.
Okay,
We've had better luck with Fords.
great. I was also wondering because the extended cab, so that would fit, you could put 4 people in it if you needed to, is that right?
If you have to go to a class or to a conference, there's 2 conferences every year, one in the fall at the Roundtree in South Burlington and one in May at the Killington Base Lodge. So you can have everybody in one, so you don't have to pay mileage, even though the mileage will be used by the vehicle.
Right, yeah.
And so that way, everyone can go to the conference together and leave together. And then, there's also education credits you can get for attending the seminars at those conferences. As part of the continuing ed to renew the licenses, which will be expiring next July 31st, they will have to have more credit hours.
So
So that will do that. The reason we have such a big truck is because of the flushing machine that we bought. If we could have got a shorter machine, with only a 600-gallon tank, we could have used only a 3/4 ton truck. But because this is 13.8 GV gross vehicle weight, you have to have a 1 ton. Okay. And previous to that, we've got the 2.5 tons, but this particular 2.5 ton we had to be worked more because of the turbo engine. And even though we plowed every year at the wastewater, it wasn't enough to exercise it because there's extra pollution control stuff on it. Previous to that, the 2001 that replaced had a turbo and a bigger engine, 7.3 liter, but we never had any problems, except for the tie rods when they broke when I had a full tank of wastewater. And so at that point in 2015, they said, "Do you want to replace the truck?" I said, "Yeah, it's a little sketchy. We replaced the tie rods and I'm not sure anymore." Being from 2000 to 2015, was 15 years old. So this particular model of the Dodge, it needed to be exercised because it's got diesel exhaust fluid. It's a urea base in there for the exhaust and stuff, and it had to be worked more. And we didn't know that when we bought it. Otherwise, we would have probably kept it. But because the turbo is going to cost $8,500, and then whatever the other exhaust gas repairs are, it might go 12 grand. I don't know.
that's the truck that we already own.
That is correct. That's the one that's down. That's going to go in another couple of days. If we use up more, it'll only go 5 miles an hour. It says it right on the screen in the truck because it's part of the pollution thing to say it's time to get it fixed. We're not going to let you pollute anymore. So.
Mr. Hopkins, are we probably purchasing a G-Stone? Where we've bought other cars? Service?
This has not been sourced from G-Stone, no.
No?
No.
Well,
The Ram is from Bennington. The Ford is from Lebanon, I think.
Right. And it's already there on the lot.
Yeah.
With that white toolbox body, which is the old one is rusting out on the truck. So we can't even.
So these are what I understand to be built trucks,
Yep.
right? These are not to be ordered trucks.
we can have it
Sitting on-
service locally. That's all.
I'm sure we can get it serviced on our Ford warranty, yeah.
Okay.
At G-Stone.
Pleasure of the board.
I think that Stephen over time has shown me every single time that he has made a recommendation, it has always been the least expensive. This is the only exception, and he has good reasoning that sounds reasonable to me. I'm by no means an expert on trucks, but he swayed me.
Did you want to make a not to
So-
exceed 75,000?
I think that sounds reasonable, and I'm comfortable with the Ford if he thinks that's going to be the best tool for the job, just because the prices are so similar. I know $3,000 is a lot of money, not in comparison to a $70-ish thousand truck, though. So I make a motion that we move forward with Stephen's recommendation of the Ford F-350
Not to exceed
not to
75.
exceed $75,000.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
Additional questions or discussion?
Is that gonna be enough to register and everything and pay the taxes on it? That's 72,000.
Oh,
I don't think we're paying taxes.
Well, you'd
Municipality.
have to when you bring it to Vermont.
No, I mean the
What's that?
town. I don't think
Oh,
the town
okay. Okay,
is subject.
okay, that's a good point. Because I bought a vehicle in New Hampshire before and you have to pay.
Yeah.
it's always
Yeah.
what gets you when you buy a used car.
Okay, so we're still good with the motion and the second?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor of not to exceed $75,000 motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one? New trucks coming. Public comment from the public regarding the sewer commissioner. Pardon?
Any business for sewer commissioners?
We're having the sewer commission.
We are the sewer commission. The grant is like acts as the sewer
Okay,
commission.
sorry, I was asleep.
Double job, no extra pay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. No public comment. Do we have a motion to adjourn the sewer commissioner?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor of joining the sewer commissioners, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Maybe 1/3 of the night over. Number 2 will be the Board of Local Cannabis Control. That's us also. First. First would be a motion to adopt the agenda.
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda as written.
Second,
Second.
all in favor of adopting the agenda, please say aye.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I did have in my little update for things that happened today, I had a request to add a license renewal on this agenda
Okay,
before you adopt the agenda. So I had, I emailed this out when it was ready earlier in the day, and I put a paper version on your desks tonight. So it's, my request is that you add a renewal that was received after the agenda was published. It's application S-0000008917, Tier 1, Outdoor Cultivator, Small Cultivator Renewal for Friendly Farmers. So if you could add that as number 4A or something like that.
4A.
And I don't know how picky it is, but I am noticing that while we're just talking about the agenda, the first paragraph where it says where we're meeting, it says upstairs, but we're downstairs. But,
Don't know if that means.
okay, I just didn't know how picky it got. I'm proud of myself when I notice a typo. I'm not the best at approving.
Okay, so to adopting the agenda, adding 4A. All in favor of adopting that agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
The nays were none. So approving the minutes of the May 13th cannabis meeting.
Make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Any additions or corrections from anyone? None heard. All in favor of adopting the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no one. Move on to application, small tier cultivator renewal, Montenbert Meadows LLC.
Consent.
We could do a consent and also include item 4, Freedom Funks cannabis products, and 4A.
Friendly farmers.
Right. So would we like to take all as the consent? I assume, okay.
Yeah.
So do I have a motion on the 3 renewals?
I'll make a motion on all 3 renewals.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor of renewing all 3 licenses, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one? Public comment on cannabis. Hey. Motion to adjourn.
Yes, please.
Second. All in favor of adjourning the cannabis control, say aye.
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 Hard to get through that meeting with that.
That was a board that I never thought I would have to chair meeting for cannabis control. Yeah, that's right. Okay, now the highlight meeting of the night, the Brandon Select Board call to order. First, thing would be to adopt our agenda.
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda. With. No, these are just notes, not amendments. The agenda as written.
Second,
Second?
second. All in favor of adopting the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Reoccurring matters, item 2, first of which is the select board minutes from the June 24th meeting. Make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Motion to approve the minutes. Any corrections or additions? None heard. All in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. 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 Opposed?
Abstain.
Pardon?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, there we go. Second is the warrants. There are 2 separate warrants in the packet. I will let take any questions, or would you like to explain again why there's 2?
So at both July meetings, there will be a warrant for the previous fiscal year. This will be for bills that came in after the end of June, but still apply to the year that ended June 30th. And then there's another warrant for the fiscal year that's just opened on July 1st. And that'll be the case at your next meeting also.
Motion that we pay bills listed on each of these warrants.
Both warrants, motion. Second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions on any bills on the warrant?
Yeah, I have a question on the drinking fountains for the dog park, $7,200 for 2 of them. Is that?
That is correct. We will be billing Brandon Fire District 1 for one of the fountains. They offered to pay for one of the fountains, but yes, they are expensive. They're outdoor equipment made to last for years, but that was the cheapest one. That was months of looking around for the cheapest price. They had a 20% off deal that day. Like it was, you're just,
Wow.
it's mind blowing.
Dog drinking fountains?
They are
People drinking fountains.
They are people, dog. So they actually have there's 4 different spaces to get water. There's a water bottle filler.
Great.
There's a higher one that's a higher one. There's a ADA accessible one, and there's one at the bottom that can be filled for 4-legged friends.
That sounds like the cutest water fountain I've ever thought of.
So when you're saying that the district's going to pick up some of that, we'll half of it?
Half of it, yes. And we have donations from the dog park fund to help pay for the other one.
Any ballpark on the donation amount? Okay.
Now, will there be any water on the playground? for the
Both
kids?
sides. So the reason why we got 2 fountains, one will be placed in between the playground and the bowel court, and the other one will be on the fence side, inside the fence for the dog park. We'll be drawing water from the north side of the park, northeastern side of the park. We already had a well pump that unfortunately got hit by a truck, has been capped, but the fire department, or the Brandon Fire District number 1, is going to help us with the raising of that and bringing the water up, and our buildings and grounds will dig the trench and we'll lay the pipe, and it'll be done in-house.
Great. When do you think it'll get done? Like, will people be able to use it this summer?
Ideally, yes. We just onboarded our new buildings and grounds person last week, July 1st. So they're catching up on some of the stuff they got behind, but that's one of the high priority projects.
Great.
Winterize it, drain the water back out of they won't be operational in the wintertime.
That's awesome. You see people using that dog park all.
Any other questions on the warrant? None heard. All in favor of the motion to pay both warrants, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one? Town managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to highlight a couple of items from my report, if I could. I do have some more information, even since I wrote the update, regarding our ERAF funding, right? So there was the July 2023 flood. There was a lot of response that was required of the town to put Newton Road back in order, and Kennedy Park, and Wagner Road, and Birch Hill Road, and some extra usage at the wastewater treatment facility, and so forth. I have had a confirmation now that we've received the money from FEMA, which is great, through the state. I had inquired of the state what we needed to do to obtain the ERAF portion, which is the part that FEMA doesn't cover. So FEMA does 75% and the state ERAF does 17.5%. And so the town would be paying 7.5%. And I did receive a confirmation this afternoon that we don't need to do anything. We just need to wait for that process to go through. And what the process is held up on right now is the state's desire to make sure whether the state is going to be considered for 90% FEMA funding instead of 75% FEMA funding. So the ERAF gets adjusted. The minimum for the FEMA funding, the standard, is 75% federal share. That's happened. The state's waiting before they contribute another share to find out whether there's going to be additional money coming from FEMA if Vermont attains the 90% instead of the 75% funding level. Is that any questions on that? So basically, they have all the paperwork. They're not waiting on anything from us. They're not waiting to do anything on their end. They're just waiting to find out if this is going to be a 90% FEMA or a 75% FEMA incident. The other stuff that I might highlight are related to the finances. And on the little sheet that I gave you, I updated what I had available to me last week when we posted the agendas on Wednesday. So we do have the updated amounts for the FY24 budgeted revenue and actual. We are 102.91% on the revenue side of the budget. We have the FY24 expense budget and actual, and we are at 102.67% on the expense side of the budget. You will recall that in the November 2022 budget workshop, the board determined that $100,000 could be applied against the amount to be raised by taxes. So that amount has basically been, if you look at the budgeted revenue of $3.488 million and the budgeted expense of $3.588 million, the difference is that $100,000 that we were planning to spend from fund balance. It appears right now that we'll be into the fund balance for $94,424. So this is kind of coming in line just about exactly as it was projected by the board and the previous town management when the FY24 budget was put together in that workshop series. There will be some more entries by the town bookkeeper and treasurer. There'll be some more bills coming in. There was good news on the revenue side where Sue Gage, our town treasurer, informed me that it's not just the delinquent tax payments that come in July that get credited. It's the delinquent tax payments that come in for July and August get credited as revenue for the year that's just closed, FY24. And then further down in the list there, you see the current year, 3.88% won that one warrant at 4% of the year being spent. And the balances in the unrestricted fund balance, the local option tax, and the amount outstanding. The tax sale is in its earliest stages, which is that the attorney has the list of taxpayers to contact for delinquent taxes to be satisfied.
Do we know if the letter has been sent out yet by the attorney?
I did ask, and the town staff did not know whether the letters had been sent out. I kind of think not.
Because when that letter goes out, then we'll collect some of that
That's right.
fairly quickly, probably in July and August. So
Right.
that could,
Before the sale itself
Yeah.
starts even.
right.
Yep.
Questions from the board for the town manager on his report? Okay. Questions from the public? Yes, ma'am. Can you at least grab a microphone if you don't want to walk up there, just because we want everyone to be able to hear.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm here. Delinquent taxes. How long does the town wait before they send them to the attorney? And after the attorney sends out a notice, what happens then? What's the time frame?
Mr. Upton.
So the town, two things. The town does not put a property into tax sale if the delinquent amount is less than $500 because it seems like it's not worth the attorney fees. The town traditionally has done a tax sale every year. We suspended tax sales during the pandemic. So we haven't had a tax sale in Brandon for a good 4 years. I'm sure we did one in 2019, but I think the pandemic happened early enough in 2020 that we hadn't started the process yet. So 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, like we're into year 5. And so that's why the amount of delinquent taxes outstanding is high and why so many letters went or so many properties went to the attorney, 70 properties. As far as what happens after the letter happens, there's a matter of several weeks where the attorneys do the deed research to make sure that everything is in order to be warned. And then there's a lot of publications and a lot of certified mail that goes out to let taxpayers know that they're at risk and that they have an opportunity to enter into payment plan. We want to encourage taxpayers to keep their properties. And so if somebody is looking like they're delinquent in their taxes, even right now, they can enter into a payment plan with the town. The only parameter on the payment plan, and that's per the policy of the town, which is the League of Cities and Towns recommended policy, is that the payment plan that gets created should satisfy the entire amount of the delinquency plus additional taxes and additional penalties and fees and interest within a year. So if you're a year behind, it means you're doubling up on your taxes, basically. If you're 3 or 4 years behind, you've got a big nut to crack every month to stay out of tax sale. Yes. Well, I've worked, I can talk about, well, I can talk about why we're not staying on it. That really was a decision that was a conscious decision of the select board and the town management and the town manager at the time, Mr. Atherton. He's the delinquent tax collector during the pandemic. I'm the delinquent tax collector now. It just kind of comes with the job. There was a conscious decision made that we weren't going to tax sale a property during a pandemic and turn someone out of their house. So that's why the amount has gotten to the extent that it has. I have sat down and talked face to face with, I can think of 2 taxpayers who are way more than 3 years in arrears on their taxes and heard about what challenges they're facing. It's sometimes very difficult to have these conversations because they're having, life-shattering things happen to them where they have made the determination that I can pay my property taxes or I can pay for this like life-saving surgery for my loved one. And they've made their decisions. During the pandemic, the town tried in a number of venues through the Reporter, through Front Porch Forum, through Sue Gage's Facebook page. We tried to emphasize to taxpayers that there was pandemic relief available to pay people's property taxes that the state was offering up. And a number of Brandon residents were able to avail themselves of that help. A few Brandon residents, for whatever reason, it could be as significant as I don't have time to think about this right now. My wife is dying kind of thing, have not done that. And so the 2 that I'm thinking of that I've met with the most often, I would put in that category of, they have not been able to devote the time that they or attention that they maybe would have liked to trying to get the help that was available at the time. And the help is basically at this point, the help window is closed.
A follow-up to that is a question a little bit for you, Seth, which is that do you feel like you need or does the town need help connecting people with more resources? Like, is that a link that you feel is sufficiently made? And knowing that, it's tough that when you think you've seen it all, you haven't seen it all, is the lesson that I've learned over and over. And, but just to make sure that part of your official but unofficial duties is helping people get hooked up with services that could help them.
I think the state has been really
Okay.
proactive in partnering with the towns.
Okay.
The League of Cities and Towns has been great about it. And in Brandon, I really think our town treasurer has been kind of the first contact for many of these folks. And she has done a lot of her own independent research to make sure of all the possibilities to help people out. So I'm pretty confident that people are being told about everything that could help them.
Okay. Just. Great. Question. Oh, Linda.
And,
I was just wondering, what happens with the delinquent wastewater charges? Is that handled in the same manner as the?
So, right, the delinquent wastewater is treated just like delinquent property tax. Yep.
Thank you.
And then the other piece of it is delinquent drinking water, which is treated entirely differently. It's owed to the fire district and not to the town. The fire district can't go to tax sale, but they can shut water service off, which for them would be it would be a last resort.
additional questions for the town manager on his report? Unheard. Moving on. Rec director's report.
Thank you. This is my report, penned and on Wednesday, but it says today, a busy weekend. I anticipate it to be a busy weekend with the Independence Day celebration. Many thanks to the members of the Brandon Independence Day Celebration Committee and volunteers for their hard work. Planning for 2025 begins this week. We're probably pushing it out into next week with a Monday or Tuesday meeting. If you are interested in helping, please reach out to me. We'll be doing our reconciliation of how well or poorly we did with regard to the fundraising efforts. So we'll have better answers for folks about how this parade kicked off. I do know that it seemed like there were a lot more people in town, especially for the fireworks, and everything went relatively smoothly. And again, volunteers are what makes the dream work. Thanks to the efforts of Brent Wilbur, a weekly pickup soccer scrimmage group will be happening at Estabrook for kids, grades 7 and up, and adults. Will run from 6 to 7:30 on Mondays, this Monday, and there'll be Tuesdays going forward through the summer at 6 to 7:30, and that's a free offering down at Estabrook, and it's just basically painting lines on the field and allowing them to use the goals.
Adults and kids.
Adults and kids, grade 7 and up, yeah. Brandon Rec is partnering with Otter Valley's varsity cheerleading coach, Cass Bruley, to offer a 4-day cheer camp on July 18th, 19th, 25th, and 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Otter Valley Gymnasium. Participants in grades 3 through and up will receive instruction, a cheer shirt, and the opportunity to participate in a halftime routine at an Otter Valley varsity football game. The Brandon Carnival is right around the corner, July 25th through the 28th at Estabrook. Entertainment includes the Brandon Idol Singers, PAC Wrestling, Camp Broadway Performance, Wildlife Encounters, and the Vermont State Trivia Championships. And I actually just didn't write this in my report. Today, we had one through a work program. We have somebody that's helping out our buildings and grounds person and is doing a phenomenal job. We have another person starting. It's a youth job training program that will provide some office assistance as well as some in the field assistance. We'll have 2 young people working with us over the month of July into the beginning of August at no cost to the town. And they're already doing a fantastic job. It's a great program. Thank you.
High schoolers or college kids?
High school age.
Any questions from the board for Bill Moore? Okay, that's cool. I actually not really a question, but 2 comments. I did not make it to the parade due to family commitments, but I have had a number of people say that the parade was quite good. So pass on the thanks to the committee that worked hard on that. And I did get to see the kids that you had working here from Virginia a few weeks ago. and visited with them and talked with them, and that was really a great event. They did some good free service work for the town, and they worked hard. Really nice.
That's a great program. Again, I can't say enough about the Youth Works program and the work that they've done over the years here in Brandon. And the fact that they've started back up is exciting because again, we can start to plan on them helping out. And again, many hands make for light work, and a lot of those painting jobs. And again, just like with our volunteer efforts that we have with people here in town with our gardening club, I can't leave Brandon without people talking about how beautiful it looks downtown, and how I've been looking down person the entire month of June, and flowers, everything looks so good. And so that's again volunteer work here in Brandon. So
I think they painted and sealed all the picnic tables around town that everyone sits in for free, and they cleaned all the windows at the town office for free, which is really nice. That was pretty cool.
I'd echo what Doug said. The parade was awesome. Everybody was wet but happy. And the events behind the Brandon Inn were wonderful. And it was great because you could go, and I'm sure there were lots of people that spent more money, but it was possible to go and not spend a ton of money, which was really nice.
So any other questions or comments from the board?
I never watched a Swiss roll eating contest before to this year. And so
See my son.
You're gonna enter next year?
I'm training.
Okay.
well, and if I could talk about that, I mean, not the Swiss rolling competition, which was fantastic. There's an article in the Herald that just popped tonight that has interesting quotes in there about it.
Did the same guy win?
Yes, eighth year in a row. But the fact that like the way our community works so well is that like everyone has their areas of specialty. So for instance, Swiss rolling competition is put on by the Leary family. They handle that. They ask for support when they need it, but they recruit their own volunteers. The parade itself, the actual parade, Susan Stone has done crazy work getting 6 volunteers to help her with the lineup, to do the recruitment piece. Our vendors this year were handled by Colleen. Bobby Torstenson always does the work at the silent auction, and a new member, Jessica Moen, sold out all 444 ducks, and the Brandon Fire Department launched those ducks into the Neshobe River from the ladder truck, which was really cool, visible thing. And again, like volunteer work makes it work. So,
Any questions of the rec department from the public? Okay, moving on.
I know you thanked everybody in your team, but I want to thank you because every time I turned around, there was Bill in his orange jacket off doing something, over this way. And I said, well, where's Bill's family? And I noticed you weren't with them. So you were always off out doing stuff to help the festivities. And it was great. I had a great time. First time, I do have to complain. I saw other ducks gaming up on mine. So we're going to have to fix that for next year. I have to talk to Larry about that. So, but anyway, thank you. I had a really, really great time.
Mhm.
well, again, it's the work of the Brandon community really makes it work. So thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 5, the blanket payroll authorization for FY 25.
Mr. Chair, you see in the box at the top, the reason that it's before you, it's basically to put everybody's payroll on the 25 budget year that the voters approved. And then it does talk about the hiring of our third wastewater treatment system operator, Ian Buckley, as required by the state, and of Kyle Leadham in the buildings and grounds to replace Nate McKeegan, as Bill referred to. Kyle started on the 1st. And Ethan Kelleher has also graduated from the police academy and is now full-time on the police force. He had graduated from Castleton University, or from Vermont State University, Castleton, in December, and then went to the police academy afterwards.
Can I get a motion from the board to approve the payroll authorization?
I make a motion that we approve this payroll authorization.
Second, any discussion? All in favor of the payroll authorization for FY 25, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no one? Okay. Appointment of a new Zoning Administration Officer would be Larry Stevens. Mr. Hopkins, tell us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So our current zoning administrator, Jeff Biasuzi, his term is a 3-year term. It's a select board appointment, and his term ends on July 14th. Concurrent with the approval of the budget by the voters to expand the time in the zoning department for the service of those who are trying to make improvements to their property. We did talk with Jeff. Jeff does the zoning work for a number of towns and did not have any capacity in his schedule to do additional time with the town of Brandon. So we did post the job internally first when it became apparent that Jeff was not able to be considered as a candidate for the more expanded position. And we did post internally. We have an internal candidate who is our rental housing and health officer, Larry Stevens. I did consult the statute and so forth and found that, contrary to my recollection when I was on the select board, this is actually a planning commission nomination to the select board. So I brought it before the planning commission at their meeting last week, and they have advanced Larry's name to the select board as their nominee for zoning administrator for the 3-year term.
We all know Larry. Anyone make a motion on this?
Make a motion. We appoint Larry Stevens to 3-year zoning administrator.
And continue as rental code, et cetera.
Yes.
Second,
Second.
motion in a second. Any other discussion?
So what is his total commitment weekly to the town now?
So we are going to try to, so we had expanded zoning from a day and a half to 3 days. And Larry was basically working on an ad hoc as needed basis as rental and housing officer and health officer. So what we're going to try to do is just do the 3 days a week and perhaps not use the time that had been allotted to rental housing and health. We're going to see how it goes. There's going to be a period of time. Jeff Biasuzi, who's finishing his term, has been quite gracious. He's offered to do some training with Larry. Larry's quite gracious to accept it. So they're going to be working together soon, now that they have the news of Larry's appointment by the board. And I would suspect that will just be a matter of a couple of weeks, probably.
Okay. All in favor of approving Larry? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no one? Larry is on board. Item 7, pardon.
I was going to ask if we're set to add, he's already on the payroll authorization. and We're going to have to update that now, probably.
Let me see if that's the right amount. That would be the recommended amount for the new position, yes.
Okay.
Next is a big subject, the condition and plan for the Neshobe Upper Falls Dam.
Mr. Chair, this is, I think, a matter of interest to a lot of people. So everybody's familiar with the waterfall that's next to kind of behind Blue Moon, between the barbershop and Blue Moon. And everybody's familiar with the fact that it used to be a nice even fall across the width of the river. And over the last number of years, the south end of it has failed. And so there's kind of a heavy flow on the south end and nothing's go over on the north side anymore. So, it had been something that we tried to check out coincidentally a year ago during the week of the big flooding in Vermont. We had some site visits arranged with Markowski and so forth. They were called away to do some emergency repair work of large significance in other towns. But in parallel with that, I've been talking with all the different people at the state. There's the Western floodplain manager from the state, the wetland ecologist, and the river management engineer. They're all involved with this, as well as the town zoning administrator. And the results are in those little snippets that I have A through E in the memo to the board. So basically, I'm looking for what the select board would like to see done. There are a few options. One option is do nothing. Do nothing means that the dam will eventually fail. And the reason that this is kind of being advanced to you now is that the insurance company has advised that they will not provide us any coverage for damage caused by the failure of the dam to downstream properties after January 1st, 2026, unless we improve the dam. So what I would see as kind of the three basic options are don't do anything and realize that we're not going to have insurance. I don't think that the risk of downstream damage is anything approaching great because of the overflow culvert and because of the very small amount that's being held back by the dam. So one option is just wait for it to go. Second option would be restore the appearance of it. That would be the least expensive option. Just kind of go into the pool below the dam and take the stones out that have fallen out and try and line them up as best you can across the top. That would be probably a temporary, could be several years fix. And then the third option would be if you want to go out, spend some money, get some engineering done to see what it would take to actually excavate the sediment out from behind the dam, repair the wall from the backside so that it's not weeping through anymore, and restore the dam to being functional and safe.
Pleasure of the board.
I'll say point blank, I would like as much more information as I can get. So I don't know that I'm prepared to vote on this tonight, just because that's a really big question.
I have strong feelings that we have to go with at least number 2, which I've brought up many times over the last so many years, to at least get the dam level across. And I think find out when we can get somebody in there what item 3 would really cost. I mean, I think the appeal and one of the draws of Brandon is that wonderful waterfall right in the middle of town. It looks wonderful. And I'm not too worried about if the dam fails, because there's a very small amount of water that's held up in back of it at this point. Maybe if we dig it out some, but I've been unhappy with the water kind of churning over and just coming through the right side for a couple of years. And I know we were going to have it looked at last year and flood happened. So I'm certainly in favor of getting at least the stones up top kind of soon. And then if we have to go through a study on the dam and make a decision on the cost, we can. Anybody else on the board first?
We have permission to get in that water?
So, right, that was the big questions to all those people. And the little quotes that I have are from their email responses or letter responses back to the town. And they're basically saying, yes, it's possible. There will be limits on the time of year that the work can be accomplished, stuff of that nature. But it's a doable job, whether it's just replacing the stones to try to make it an even waterfall, or whether we want to like go in and actually rebuild the dam. It's all allowable.
Okay.
It is the town's, by the way. So the dam belongs to the town of Brandon.
When you talk about downstream damage,
Yes.
like you're
So
talking about not downstream damage like in another town. You're talking about downstream
the
damage
immediate
in
vicinity.
your town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the impoundment area, which is the pond behind the dam, we don't even think of it as a pond, right? It's that small. It's 1/10 of an acre. It's a very small impoundment. And if the dam falls and all of the stuff goes, it's just going to go down the overflow culvert at this point. If the overflow culvert were not there, conceivable there could be like some flooding into the barber shop or into the Conant block or into the town office again.
Okay.
I agree with what Doug says.
I
Be
do.
best to shore it up a little bit. And then maybe
And get some
see what the
figures.
cost would be to do it, the
Okay.
whole thing.
I agree also.
The public.
Hi, I live on the river. And according to the new FEMA maps, the water is going to rise on the Neshobe, all the way up to the blacktop on River Street. So I think not next year, but it's going to go up. And so I think water that's that much higher. I mean, I'm already planting trees to suck up the water. So that my house doesn't, fall off the ledge and go into the river, because that's my responsibility. So, I think the town, because it's downstream, right? They need to be aware that, we further up the river are already preparing for the river to become wider and higher. Just want to let you know.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be opposed to if they removed the whole top row and lowered it, so it's still water coming across the entire dam. I just don't think it has the appeal that it had before, where all the water is kind of funneling over to the right side, water leaking through a hole down lower. So, I think we need some.
So just for additional piece of information. So one of the folks that we corresponded with at the state indicated, there might be some funding available if the town wanted to remove it, but there will be way less funding available if the town wants to repair it. And nobody is saying it's going to be allowed for the town to raise it. Okay, so we're basically talking about
Yeah.
putting it back at the level that
Back
it's
at the
at,
level it was,
regardless of the
or a little
upstream
lower. It
stuff.
could be a little lower if we
Yep.
took that one course
Course,
off that
yep.
has already lost some.
Yep.
And make it solid again. Who would we be talking to about coming to do that? Is that a Markowski?
We had Markowski up, actually. Yep. We had contacted a firm that was referred to us by the state, which one? The river management engineer, and they declined. I think possibly because of distance, possibly because it's a pretty small job, actually. And then Markowski came up and Tom looked at it, and yeah, those options that I just discussed are options that he and I discussed and that I just then kind of like passed across the state.
Did he ever give us a ballpark figure?
No.
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 Can we get something from him, do you think?
I would hope so.
Okay.
I just wanted to kind of get some direction because this is a big decision, kind of like what you want the center of the town to look like. It's a decision for a board of several elected officials, not for a person.
I have a couple of questions. I go with 2. I think I can talk loud enough. I go with 2 right off the bat, but can 2 be done in preparation of 3?
That's what I understood the board's direction to be.
It's okay. No, it's okay. Thank God.
So that's what I understood the board was directing, was that some appearance be restored through an inexpensive, not hard to plan restoration. Yes. Yes.
Looking at the climate that's been changing for the last 5 years, and one that we need to have a crystal ball to know that that's going to keep going.
Right.
And I really think that money is really not the object; it's our lives and our safety and the security of the town that we really need to focus on. The storms that are coming are pretty big, even with the overflow. So I really support that we look at this seriously and do the best support and keep going.
Yeah, I believe that if we do number 2, make it look more appropriate. And I don't mind if that would be to drop it, the thickness of one row of blocks, which might drop the pond level 18 inches or something. I'm not an engineer. I haven't walked on the dam, but it wouldn't drop it a lot, and we would still have a waterfall in town. And I think that's what people see as they drive up and down Route 7. And it may help if it was a little smaller of a pond there. So
I don't think it's aesthetic as long as
right.
Cosmetically maintain the way it appears, and yet continue to work on the infrastructure of it.
So I guess I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'll make a motion that we don't do number 1, which is do nothing. That we do look at what you called option 2 of, get some of the stone back or take the top layer off after you talk to somebody. And then we can see what it would be and how sound they feel the dam is. Once they do that, they may get in there enough to know a little more. And then what the cost would be and what that would be to go to number 3. That work? I think that is a motion.
Absolutely.
I second that motion.
Any discussion on the motion?
Thank you for the information you shared that.
Okay.
clarified things
All
for
in
me.
favor of making that as a motion to direct our town manager to do that, say aye.
I,
Opposed? We can move on. Thanks for doing this. I brought it up a number of times. Annual financial plan town highway.
So, Mr. Chair, this is something that the state requires that the select board certify each year, that the select board is committed at least $300 per mile for each mile of class 1, 2, and 3 town highway in the municipality. So, something like 60 miles of class 1, 2, and 3. So that would be like $180,000. And the plan is $1.115 million. So you're well above the certification required there. And in conjunction with this, if I could, Mr. Chair, it's not exactly related to this, but it's tangentially related. I did have a piece of news to share with the board that the town was awarded a class 2 paving grant for the North Street work, which is good news. That's something that is, it was not expected money. We were not approved for High Pond Road or for Union Street.
Thank you for that. Would that mean that we are still doing just those two projects, I assume?
I think what's kind of coming up is that Union Street makes a lot of sense to a lot of people. I'm talking about not the in-village, like total reconstruction with sidewalks, but the, portion below the Dean Bridge.
Correct.
That makes a lot of sense to a lot of people. And then whatever portion we were going to put toward North Street that we now don't have to because we got the small grant to do North Street. We do have a patch to do on River Street. There's a couple of projects of that nature that might be smarter to like put out a few small kinds of annoyances because there won't be enough to do High Pond Road.
I just
for
wanted
sure.
to get that out there officially. So we'll still spend the allotted paving that we had.
I expect
planned.
so. I expect so. Yep.
Thank you. Do you need a motion on this?
We need a motion, right, they need a motion to have the select board endorse this annual financial plan.
Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion, we endorse the annual financial plan. Town highways.
We have a second. We have a second. That is to, that's for a total of $1,115,155 of money coming from the state, correct?
No,
No, that's what the,
this is $1,115,155 that the town is paying.
town.
The town is putting toward the 85 number, the 100,000 number, and the 175 number at the bottom,
That's
and the town tax funds of 575, 155. The stuff above that number, that's the only portion
From the
coming from the state. Sorry.
about 170,000, more or less, from the state.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We have a motion, a second. Any other discussion from the board? None heard. All in favor of the motion to move forward with this annual financial plan for highway, say aye.
I,
Opposed, no one.
What was that amount the state gave us for
Oh.
paving?
It's in the $38,000 range. I was looking in my phone to see if I could find it. I'm not finding it immediately, but I believe it was in the $38,000 range. You mean the North Street?
Yeah, what the grant we got?
Yeah.
The unexpected one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is the financial management questionnaire.
So this is something that the town treasurer is required to bring to the select board. She has filled it out with information regarding the town's financial operations. And it's for the select board's review and acknowledgement. And if you have questions, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer. Sue is on the Zoom. But she does have the notes there on the right column.
We do not have to do any action other than sign it that we have received it, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Anyone have any questions that they would want?
I just want to make sure that I understand correctly. This is all just stuff to make sure that we have policies and procedures in place to make sure that we are not at risk of anybody being dishonest.
Yes, I would call it financial controls, basically. Yes.
And it carries forward into our clean audits that we have received from the town. That's part of that. Goes in.
Great.
Okay, so we can sign it that we received it.
And thank you to Susan for her hard work. Great.
Next item is item 10, the late homestead penalty.
So this is an annual decision that the select board needs to make. I would point out a typographical error at the top, just for the sake of the minutes. It's for tax year ending 6/30/2025 in the bold there. That was a simple clerical error on the form. But if you're comfortable with it. So this is talking about whether or not the town will assess the penalty or not assess the penalty for late filing of homestead declarations. It's generally been the town treasurer's recommendation that the town not assess the penalty.
Pleasure of the board.
I make a motion that we not give the penalty to late homestead filers. And follow Sue's recommendation that we not penalize people when they're having trouble paying.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Now discussion.
How much is the penalty? Do we know?
Well,
Let's
it's
Oh, Sue's there.
8%. It's 8% of the education tax. It's a painful penalty, and it often hits people, small business owners who have to file an extension for their Schedule C business, and it feels painful. And so if they file late, they get a big whopping penalty, and they don't get a homestead. So it just seems a little much to me.
Any other questions? Move the question. All in favor of the late homestead penalty being waived, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no one. Now we are up to public comment for items that are not on our agenda. And I want to start it off at this table. There's been a lot of discussion in the last 3 or 4 board meetings regarding Brandon Industrial Corps. Did some additional homework on Brandon Industrial Corps. And I just want to inform the public, and that I'm hoping Stephen will put some of this in the newspaper. Brandon Industrial Corps does have new officers. The officers are Jim Leary is the president. Tom Whitaker is the vice president. Devin Fuller is the secretary. Pat Woods is the treasurer. And Seth Hopkins is the agent. Going forward, I would expect all questions about BIC to be addressed to that board. On the item of Mr. Hopkins being the agent, this board does not have a feeling of that there's any conflict. And we investigated this back to August of 1988 was when BIC was formed. And in the minutes of the August of 1988 select board meeting, the request was for the town manager, whomever that person may be, act as the agent for the Brandon Industrial Corps. And that has been recertified many different times in prior select board minutes. So it has been that way, that the acting town manager has been the agent since 1988 for 35 years. I'm happy to share these old minutes with anyone that would like to see them, but I personally don't want to have our board being tied up on BIC information that we have nothing to do with. Our only item that we had to do with BIC was that the solar project was being proposed, and as any solar project is asked for, they ask the town select board to give a letter stating that they are happy with and feel that the site meets the standards and doesn't interrupt people's views or things like that, which is what we did on this. And that's the only thing that we have to do with as far as BIC. And then after they get the letter from us, they do the exact same thing with the Rutland Region Planning Commission. And then that's what they take to the Public Service Board, which helps them get their licensing and whatever. So I just want to clarify it so everyone understands we're not trying to beat anyone up. I'm not trying to do anything but clarify that those are the people. And the president of the organization, Jim Leary, did tell me that the secretary, Devin Fuller, is in the process of sending in the paperwork to the state of Vermont. That has not been totally updated, but is in the process now. So that answers all those big questions, and that's what I wanted to do.
So at this point, if somebody looked on the state website and it's not up to date, that's a state website.
And they call Devin
Lag.
Fuller.
That's a state website lag, and you can email the, yeah.
Yeah, or I mean, I have no authority to tell Devin when he has to have it in or anything like that, but that is who the officers are. And they've been updated and voted in a while ago, but the page wasn't updated, which created the controversy. And I just don't like having controversy or things hanging. So I wanted to clarify it. All here and all on the computer in the newspapers. Now, any other public comment from the board on anything that's not on the agenda? From the public, any questions that you would like to ask?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I didn't want to get into this,
Sorry.
but I had to. So when I started, I was like, I'm not going to start thanking people with Independence Day celebration because you're going to miss people. And then I did, and then I missed people. I want to make sure that when we talk about committee chairs and parts of our Independence Day celebration committee, Debbie Boyce and her family are out there early on, getting signage out there, putting stuff out, all those. She is fantastic. She's our safety officer. She was also driving the shuttle. She was out in Rutland at 6 o'clock in the morning, picking up the shuttle bus to run the shuttles all day long. This parade doesn't happen without her and her family. I wanted to make sure that was made aware. And I know I'm forgetting other people, but at least I didn't forget Debbie. Thank you.
Comments from the public on anything that they would like to comment on? All right. And that means
Oh, wait, can I say
Comment.
something?
motion to adjourn. What?
Sue,
Sue,
Oh, yes, I have something to say, if you can hear me. I just wanted to put in the record that the tax bills will be going out late. We should expect them to be mailed the first week of August, the first full week of August. And that's due to the late budget approval of the school. So it's going to push that first due date out until September 15th. People should be aware of that. I plan on paying mine by August 15th or my cash flow will be all messed up. So I just want to give people a heads up for that.
is it a question?
And we also have an election on August 13th. It's the Vermont primary election. We have ballots in the office if people want to vote early.
we already did.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, thank
hear
you,
me?
Sue.
Yep, you're welcome.
We have a motion to adjourn, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.